Today, let's revisit a time in history when TV announcers would say, "Don't touch that dial," and they literally meant just that. And back to a time when Weird Al Yankovic had his own movie. That movie, of course, being UHF. This is today's review, and this is an on-demand review. This request comes from Weirdo13. Thank you very much for your recommendation. Very interesting revisiting this movie, because my experience with the movie, I was aware of it. I knew about it. I knew about Weird Al and things like that. I'd say maybe like a casual fan. Of course, you'd see his videos on TV, and you'd enjoy them, and enjoy his albums and things like that. He's a Saturday morning cartoon show, all that stuff. So, of course, at some point, someone said, "Hey, this Weird Al guy, this is the late 80s, he's very popular. Let's try and harness this popularity into a motion picture." And they did just that. The movie, of course, unfortunately wasn't a big hit, possibly just due to it kind of being, I don't know, maybe a little bit more zany and off-the-wall kind of movie than your average fare. Plus, it didn't help that it came out in the same summer as Ghostbusters 2 and Batman. So people always say Ghostbusters 2 wasn't a success because of Batman, but UHF is several tiers down from Ghostbusters 2 popularity. So it has since become a cult classic, and I didn't really see it until actually a couple of years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I think I borrowed the DVD from a friend of mine. I'm I'm looking for a comedy to watch. I feel like I've seen every single comedy. This Weird Al movie looks interesting. So I borrowed it, I watched it, I got through 20 minutes of it or something like that. I don't know, just wasn't feeling it. But then recently, I watched it on Netflix, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed it this time around. I think maybe I was just in the right mood for it, and I liked it. And I don't know, it is this kind of zany movie, but in a lot of ways it's really clever. I mean, the humor really, it must have been very, timely, but in the same kind of vein, it's timeless. It's, I don't know, just kind of captures this Vidiot generation, right? Where everything's music videos and everything's TV shows and things like that. So I think it's very clever in capturing that era in a sense. And the plot is very, very simple. I mean, we have Weird Al basically playing himself. I honestly, I can't remember the character's name, but he's this goofy kind of slacker guy, and he has his head in the clouds. He's always having these fantasies. In fact, the movie opens with this spoof of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but meanwhile it's all a daydream, and he's really grilling burgers at some fast food place, and gets fired, down on his luck, that kind of guy. But he has a rich uncle who wins a UHF broadcast station in a poker game, and say this kid, he has a lot of weird ideas, and let's give it to him. And basically that's what the movie's about, and competing with the actual real TV network, and taking in a kind of mentally defunct janitor played by Michael Richards actually, and the janitor becoming actually a huge star on the show, and the evil corporation, the evil head of the competing network, played by Kevin McCarthy, and just one of those kind of delicious, greasy, evil bad guy in a suit kind of roles that were so great in the 80s and 90s, and trying to save the station and keep it afloat and things like that. But really what it's all about is kind of using all that silly plot, all that stupid shit, including his relationship with the girl that he's not paying attention to, and his uncle and his other gambling problems, things like that. That's all set aside for just the wackiness of the movie. Really what you're watching this for is the kind of minute by minute spoofs that you'll see. So I don't know, and in a lot of ways it's how if you'd read a Mad magazine, some of the stuff that they put in the corner in the little cartoons is funnier than the actual content. So it's kind of like that in a sense. And there's very funny spoofs and gags. This one thing, they show this silly commercial. It's Spatula World, Spatula World. And it's we only sell spatulas. Wow, that's great. Movie previews Conan the Librarian, and my favorite has to be Gandhi 2, where they turn Gandhi into an action movie. I don't know, it's zany stuff like that. And of course a Rambo spoof, Weird Al decked out in like this bodysuit to kind of look buff like Stallone, but like, I'm your worst nightmare, you know, things like that. And I think it's really good in that respect, in the spoofs and stuff, and kind of the general irreverence. It has really, I think, kind of clever and funny things. Like another kind of favorite moment or gag that kind of almost reoccurs, but the funniest part of it is like the very first part where he's first seeing the station, and there's this kind of like a homeless gentleman outside who's like, change, do you have any change? And I was like, okay, well, here, and he's like, okay, let's see, 95, $1. Okay, then he gives him the bill for it. He's like, thanks for the change. And it's like, okay, that's funny. I don't know, stuff like that. It's really weird stuff. But I think, I mean, this is pretty much exactly what you would expect from a Weird Al Yankovic movie. I mean, I guess it's really in tune with his humor, even kind of his signature things. Like I think, you know, some stuff that we've seen like on his other TV shows, like the Twinkie hot dog kind of thing that always seems to reoccur, and just weird stuff. But maybe the one thing that has me scratching my head a little bit, if only just a little bit, is you think, okay, this is a Weird Al movie. Weird Al is known for being silly and wacky and a parodist, if you want to call him that. And he's known for his music, his send-ups of kind of the top songs of the times. So you think this would be a musical movie. You'd think there'd be more musical kind of numbers in the film. But there's not really. There's only really one part where I think they took a video that already exists, the Ballad of Jed Clampett, where they show, you know, this wow, really great like 3D technology animation, things like that. That's really the only musical interval in the film, which, I don't know, I can't really say for sure if this movie would have worked better, or people generally would have responded to it better if it had been a musical, but I think it would have been kind of better fitting for like the general Weird Al brand. Like, you kind of think if this movie had show-stopping numbers where he, say, was in like that fat suit, that Michael Jackson fat suit, or just even like singing tunes from his catalog, like, you know, like A Surgeon or the Hey Ricky You're So Fine, which, I mean, that would fit perfectly with the kind of TV thing. And I don't know, but maybe it was just like a rights thing. But on its own, I think it stands well enough, and I really like kind of the goofy stuff that we see in the movie. The worst thing you can do, I think, is apply any kind of logic to it, where you kind of think, okay, so we have the TV show that's a big hit with the janitor character played by Michael Richards, and we have the Weird Al character himself bring on his own show, Uncle Nutso, I think, and like Emo Phillips is in there too, and you kind of think, okay, that's stuff they're producing themselves, but are these spoofs that we're seeing, like the fucking Gandhi 2, have they produced that themselves and they're airing it, or did they acquire the rights to? Like, you don't really know. Like this is not a serious documentary about maintaining a UHF station, ultra high frequency station. So, I mean, don't apply any kind of logic to it, and I think you'll do just fine. And yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, it's definitely, it's an acquired taste, I'll tell you that. But I'd say generally, if you like Weird Al, even in just kind of a generally casual way, I think you'll find enjoyment out of this movie. I think he's very funny for someone who hasn't like done huge acting. Like, I know he was does cameos here and there. I remember him in the Naked Gun. But for someone to lead a movie without having done so before, I think he does a good job. And maybe one day we'll get a sequel, which I don't know what that would be. And maybe like UHF 2 would technically be like a YouTube channel or something like that. Wouldn't that be interesting? Because Weird Al, of course, he's very active on YouTube. Well, at least to some extent, you know, like when he came out with his new album, he had a new video for every single song and things like that. So let's see a sequel. Let's see what's going on. But anyway, I like it. So that's my review of UHF. Thank you very much for your recommendation, Weirdo 13. It was great revisiting this cult classic. I like it quite a bit. If you have a movie that you'd like me to review, please comment below. Tell me what to review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. In the meantime, be sure to give me a thumbs up. Thumb me right up. Comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Terror237.com, and until next time, I'll see you later.